Have you ever wondered why cutting healthy pieces off your fruit trees actually gives you more fruit? It sounds like a complete paradox, right? You are literally throwing wood away, yet getting a bigger harvest. Today we are talking about the 7 fruit trees you absolutely must prune this April to guarantee an explosive harvest next summer. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to turn your sleepy, overgrown backyard trees into massive fruit-producing machines. We are going to reveal a closely guarded orchard secret that proves doing less work, but doing it at the perfect time, yields 3 times the results. But before we get to our very first tree, I have a quick question to challenge you. Do you agree that pruning is the scariest part of gardening, or do you find it totally relaxing? Let me know your stance in the comments below. Let us set the stage and look at why April is the most magical month for your garden. Historically, ancient farmers realized that pruning in the dead of winter often led to frozen branches, while pruning in the late summer stunted the tree's growth and ruined the fruit. April provides the perfect historical middle ground. This month represents the exact moment when a tree transitions from deep winter dormancy into explosive spring growth. The sap is just beginning to rise from the roots, meaning the tree has incredible healing power but has not yet wasted energy on growing useless leaves. Understanding this biological timing is the key concept behind everything we will do today, and it is the foundation for an incredible summer crop. Let us dive right into our first heavy hitter, the classic apple tree. You might be looking at your apple tree right now and wondering if you should really be cutting it back just as it is trying to wake up. But here's the truth about apple trees in April. If you do not prune them now, they will waste all their spring energy growing useless wood instead of juicy fruit. Imagine your apple tree as a crowded umbrella. If the sun cannot shine right through the center of the canopy, those inner apples will never ripen, and they will stay tiny and sour. This is why we focus on opening up the center. A massive myth among beginners is that cutting away branches means you will get fewer apples. In reality, removing the weak, crossing branches forces the tree to pump all its nutrients into the strong, fruit-bearing spurs. For an apple tree, you want to remove any branch that points straight up into the sky or straight down toward the dirt. By making these strategic cuts in April, just as the buds begin to swell, you are quite literally programming the tree to produce 3 times the fruit. So grab your sharpest shears and clear out that center. Now, let us move on to a tree that requires a completely different mindset, the beautiful peach tree. If there is one fruit tree that loves a harsh haircut in April, it is the peach. Many backyard gardeners are terrified of pruning peach trees too much. They believe the myth that a massive bushy peach tree equals a massive harvest, but that could not be further from the truth. Peach trees only produce fruit on 1-year-old wood. That means if you leave old, gray branches on the tree, they will just take up space and give you absolutely nothing in return. Think of your peach tree like a giant solar panel. It needs to be shaped into a wide, open bowl so that sunlight hits every single remaining branch. By aggressively cutting out the center and removing about 50% of the old wood in April, you trigger an explosion of fresh, reddish growth. This new growth is exactly where next summer's massive, dripping peaches will form. If you are afraid of making big cuts, just remember that a heavily pruned peach tree will reward your bravery with a harvest so heavy you might actually need to prop up the branches. Let us talk about a tree that often gets completely out of control, the wild and wonderful plum tree. Plums are notorious for growing into dense, tangled messes that look more like giant bird nests than fruit trees. In April, your main goal is to bring order to this chaos. There is an old gardening myth that pruning plum trees in the spring will cause them to bleed sap and die. While it is true that you should not prune them in the dead of winter, April is actually the perfect sweet spot. The tree is actively circulating sap, which helps it heal the cuts incredibly fast, sealing out dangerous fungal diseases. When you approach your plum tree, look for branches that are rubbing against each other. When branches rub in the wind, they create open wounds that invite pests. Remove the weaker of the 2 branches immediately. Your illustration here is to imagine a bird flying straight through the tree. If the bird cannot easily fly from one side to the other without hitting a branch, your plum tree is too thick. Thinning it out now guarantees that every single plum gets the sunlight it needs to become incredibly sweet and plump. Next on our list is the beloved cherry tree, both the sweet and the tart varieties. Cherry trees are incredibly susceptible to a nasty disease called bacterial canker, which thrives in cold, wet winter weather. This is exactly why the old advice of winter pruning is terrible for cherries, and why April is your golden window of opportunity. By April, the weather is warming up, and the tree can quickly heal any cuts you make. The secret to tripling your cherry harvest lies in horizontal growth. Cherry trees naturally want to shoot straight up into the clouds. But here is a fascinating fact for you. Branches that grow straight up produce very few cherries. Branches that grow horizontally, almost parallel to the ground, produce massive clusters of fruit. So, your April mission is to cut back the aggressive vertical leaders and encourage the tree to spread out wide. Think of it like creating a multi-tiered cake out of branches. This not only gives you 3 times the fruit, but it also keeps the cherries low enough for you to actually reach them when it is time to harvest, instead of leaving them all for the local birds to eat. Let us shift gears and look at a Mediterranean favorite that behaves a little differently, the magnificent fig tree. Figs are unique because they can actually produce 2 crops in a single year, a small early crop called the breba, and a massive main crop in late summer. A common myth is that fig trees are wild bushes that never ever need to be pruned. If you follow that advice, you will end up with a jungle of leaves and very few figs. The trick to pruning figs in April is waiting until the absolute last danger of frost has passed. Once the weather is safe, you need to be bold. Fig trees produce their main heavy crop on brand new green growth. To get a triple harvest, you need to stimulate as much new growth as possible. You do this by cutting away the old, thick, unproductive wood. Imagine you are resetting the tree's internal clock. By removing 1/3 of the oldest branches right down to the base, you force the roots to push up vigorous new shoots. These new shoots will be completely loaded with figs by August. Do not be afraid to sacrifice a few early breba figs to guarantee an overwhelming avalanche of fruit later in the season. Now we must address the stubborn giant of the orchard, the classic pear tree. If you have a pear tree, you already know its favorite hobby is growing dozens of perfectly straight branches straight up into the air. These are called water sprouts. They look like a terrible, spiky haircut on top of your tree. The myth here is that because these branches grow so fast and look so green, they must be healthy and productive. In reality, water sprouts are absolute parasites. They suck water and nutrients away from the fruit-bearing branches and produce absolutely zero fruit themselves. In April, your single most important task is to completely eradicate these vertical parasites. Cut them flush against the main branch. Once you remove these nutrient vampires, the tree experiences a massive shift in energy. All the food and water that was being wasted on growing useless wood is suddenly redirected into the flower buds. Picture the tree taking a deep breath and relaxing into its natural shape. By focusing on keeping the strong, angled branches and eliminating the vertical spikes, your pear tree will reward you with branches so heavy with fruit they touch the ground. Our 7th tree requires a delicate touch and perfect timing, the sensitive apricot tree. Apricots are the absolute divas of the fruit garden. They wake up very early in the spring, which means their beautiful blossoms are often threatened by late frosts. Because they are so prone to fungal infections, the myth is that you should only prune them in the scorching heat of late summer. However, light, strategic pruning in dry April weather is actually the secret to a massive harvest. The key here is surgical precision. You do not want to hack away at an apricot tree. Instead, you are looking specifically for mummified fruit left over from last year and dead or diseased twigs. Think of this process as sanitizing the tree before the new season really begins. If you leave old, infected wood on the tree, the spring rains will wash those spores directly onto your new blossoms, destroying your summer crop. By carefully removing only the problematic wood and slightly opening the canopy for a gentle breeze to pass through, you protect the health of the flowers. A healthy flower means a healthy fruit, and this careful April maintenance easily triples your yield. Finally, to truly triple your harvest across all 7 of these fruit trees, we have to talk about the golden rule of April pruning. You can know exactly which branches to cut, but if you do not know how to cut them, you can ruin your entire orchard. The most dangerous myth in backyard gardening is that any pair of rusty scissors from your garage will do the job. Pruning is surgery. If a surgeon used a dirty scalpel, the patient would get an infection. Your trees are exactly the same. Before you make a single cut this April, you must wipe your pruning shears with rubbing alcohol. But the real secret lies in the angle of the cut. You must always cut at a 45-degree angle, sloping away from the nearest bud. Imagine water falling on the cut. If the cut is flat, the water sits there and breeds disease. If it is angled, the water slides right off, keeping the buds safe and dry. By combining tool sanitation with the perfect 45-degree angle, you ensure that every single cut heals perfectly. The tree wastes zero energy fighting infections and puts 100% of its power into creating massive, delicious fruit for you to enjoy all summer long. So, here's the ultimate plot twist of our gardening journey today. The very act of removing parts of your tree right now, in April, is the exact trigger that forces the tree to produce 3 times as much fruit by July and August. You are not harming your garden. You are giving it a roadmap to success. By opening up the apple, aggressively shaping the peach, taming the plum, spreading the cherry, resetting the fig, clearing the pear, and gently sanitizing the apricot, you have practically guaranteed a massive summer harvest. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If you want to discover more incredible gardening secrets, please hit that subscribe button, leave a big like on this video, and share it with a fellow gardener. Before you go, tell me in the comments, which of these 7 trees are you going to prune first this weekend?